I am super duper early for a lesson, so I'm just hanging out in this gas station parking lot. I'm obviously not driving. I got dogs in the car. I'm not going to drive and do YouTube. But I wanted to kind of talk about something that's kind of been in the back of my head for a while. It's something I talk to all of my clients about. But even though some of y'all might not be my clients, it's something I want you guys to think about with your training. And that is being able to clearly define what you want out of your obedience commands. And the initial thought is, that's easy, you're stupid, shut up. Because, you know, I say we'll use heel, for example, because this is my biggest victim in this whole concept here. The heel, right? Okay, I know I don't want my dog to pull on the leash. So the rules for heel is he stays by my left side if we're heeling on the left here. You know, he stays on my left side in the correct position. That's a heel, right? But then you notice that the dogs are sniffing the ground, or the dogs are chasing bugs at the same time. And, you know, all this stuff is happening while the dog is heeling. And usually, you know, that, oh wow, I just saw a person just show up, dump their home garbage in this gas station's dumpster and leave. That's beautiful. Anyway, you know, you'll notice them heel on the dog itself is very, very messy as well. And the reason is because the owner didn't actually clearly define the rules of heel to themselves. Because to me, if the dog is correctly heeling, their focus should be on the handler. It shouldn't be, I'm heeling and looking away from you at the same time. We're not training ring dogs right now, we're training pet dogs. So when you are about to work a command, you need to think to yourself, what do I allow on this command? Is the dog allowed to bark and heel? Is the dog allowed to chase bugs and heel? Are they allowed to sniff? And that's why I'm such a huge fan of having multiple commands for the same command. Having your formal, you know, I'm gonna correct you if you don't do this, and then having your like kind of loose command, right? I do the same thing for my dogs. I've got Scooter here, I got Gracie here right now. Gracie, if I want her to go into that really nice, beautiful attention heel, I'm going to tell her Fuß, which is heel in German. And if I just tell her heel, then she's just going to walk by my left side loosely. And that's kind of what I use when I'm doing stuff like potty breaks, things where the dogs can sniff and do stuff. And I'm not super worried about it. But I do have my like kind of action command of like, if we're legitimately doing something, you know, these are the exact rules you have to follow. And it's really not as hard as I think people kind of think it is. Teaching new words for commands is super duper simple. I can do a whole video on that at another point. But having that separation of, you know, this one's more casual and this one isn't, is really important, especially with pet dogs, because there's days where you're gonna want to go take the dog for a walk around the block, and maybe it's a longer walk and you can't really expect your dog to hold, you know, maybe some really nice obedience positions at that point for that long. You can use your less formal command in order to not damage those things. But when I have a clearly defined command like heel, and my dog starts barking in the heel, we'll say they're dog reactive, not dog aggressive, just reactive, wanting to go play with the dog. They're just kind of being pushy. So there's no ill feelings in this situation. The dog is just overexcited. So if my dog's overexcited and I'm heeling and the dog's starting to bark and I'm a pet owner, so I'm just like, stop it. You know, I'm like, I am making that worse because I'm meeting the dog on their level. They're going, I'm being annoying, bark, bark, bark. I'm going to be annoying too, bark, 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 right? Versus if I just took this dog and I said no, gave a little leash correction and said heel, and just kind of kept doing that till the dog figured out, that's getting me corrected. That is going to squash the behavior more effectively, more humanely. and give you just all over a nicer picture that the dog's going to carry on to the next session ideally, versus I'm sitting here and playing tug of war with the leash, my corrections aren't good, I'm yelling at the dog, I'm getting stressed. It's just not a good experience for anyone. So sometimes, you know, being a little bit stricter and having those clear defined rules is actually going to create a better picture with your dog. Same thing goes for place. I hear all the time my dogs, and if you're unfamiliar with place is a boundary stay, ideally up on a platform bed. My rules for place, and this is what I do for my client dogs as well, is you can do almost anything up there position wise other than getting off the bed. So if they're standing on the bed, I don't care. Sitting on the bed, I don't care. If they're upside down, I don't care. But I don't allow barking on the place bed. I don't allow, you know, trying to sneak off the place bed, right? If they're like sniffing and like inching off the place bed, I'm going to eventually correct that as soon as they break it. But the big thing here is barking, because I hear a lot of pet owners where they're like, yeah, he's doing great, his obedience is great, but when I put him on place and he starts getting annoyed up there, he starts barking. And I'm like, barking doesn't have to be something you allow on place. You can correct these behaviors. And it's better to not have to correct these like in the moment. You know, occasionally the dog will get that stray idea of like, this looks fun right now, and then I'm gonna have to correct it. But I should be going into my sessions, if I'm doing a session on place, already knowing what I want and what I don't want to see on that place bed. So I find there's a little bit of leniency with these commands, and it's important to know that you can choose what you want and what you don't want, and you don't have to allow the dog to do things just because they're technically, you know, doing the right thing. It is super duper easy to lower yourself to the dog's level, and this is almost like maturity wise, right? If you have a younger sibling, which I'm the youngest sibling, so I didn't have to deal with this too much, but I know I was plenty annoying. But like when you have the older sibling, and my sibling is 3 years older than me, you know, they tend to end up stooping down to that younger sibling's level, right, when you're being annoying. So if I'm sitting here repeating the same word over and over again, the older sibling gets annoyed, turns around and starts acting immature right back. We do the same stuff with the dogs. It's just we don't realize it as much because we're so used to dealing with humans that when you're dealing with dogs, it's a little bit difficult to see how you're communicating things yourself. So understand that you are on a higher level than the dog. That's just, you know, facts. We love our dogs, right? But I can't love my dog and act like a dog back. That's not going to be productive for my dog. So when my dog starts acting a little bratty, they're starting, maybe it's a puppy and they're chewing the leash, and it's like I'm pulling the leash out of its mouth and the puppy's like, oh sick, I'm gonna grab it again, and we're basically just playing tug with the leash. That's me stooping down to that dog's level. I'm sitting there and I'm giving feedback for this game, and it's, you know, it's important to understand those situations and go, wait, you know, I'm kind of feeding into this. I need to just give that, you know, really non-personal corrections here. That's why I use the markers so much. Both of my dogs back here, I can ask them for any position, and if I tell them no, even without the correction, they're gonna try a new thing because they know that they're wrong. So my marker is really strongly charged there. But you know, having that correction word will already prime their brain for, I know this is wrong, and they're instantly going to start chilling the hell out because they understand that they are not doing the correct thing. And that's not even saying you need to have strong corrections or anything. Mine aren't strong. You know, I'm not hurting the dogs. I'm just making a sudden thing happen, and that's the surprise is more, the surprise itself is more adversive than my correction really should be. Depending on the situation, of course, there's always different things that can happen, but you know, really ultimately out of this, I just want you to understand that you need to have clear expectations to yourself before you can have those to your dog.